Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to say my great thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the Almighty God. Because of His blessing and His mercy, I can make this video and present my research proposal in health conditions. Secondly, peace be upon Him to our Rasulullah Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik alaih, who has guided us from the darkness to the lightness. Thirdly, I would like to say my great thanks for all the advisors, Ma'am Dr. Maimuna Muhayyang MPD, and Sir Muhammad Tahir SPD MPD MED area in my processing this research proposal. Fourthly, I would like to say my good thanks for all the examiners, Sir Hairil Anwar Korompot MI PhD as the first examiners, and Ma'am Dr. Nur Aini SPD MPD as the second examiners. So, before I start this presentation, allow me to introduce myself first. My name is Firmansyah. I'm from English Education Class B, State University of Makassar 2022, and my motto is libatkan Allah dalam segala urusan. So, this presentation begins with the outlines of the research, which consists of the introductions of the study, literature review, and the third one, research method. Chapter 1 about introduction. The practice of giving feedback between students and teachers during teaching and learning process has various terms in different words. This term can be corrective feedback, error correction, or grammar correction. However, the most commonly used term in the teaching process is corrective feedback or CF. According to Nasasaji and Kashafa 2017, reference in Karim and Nasasaji 2019, corrective feedback is a method of correcting students' error in order to improve their accuracy when using the target language. And the use of correcting feedback during teaching English as a foreign language in Indonesia continues to debate or to be discussed among scholars. These findings are closely related to difference in the findings of study that are divided into two major groups, namely the first, studies that shows that corrective feedback result in positive students' learning outcomes through an increased activity during the learning process, facilitate teachers and student interactions, and improves their comprehensions in writing. And the second studies demonstrate that corrective feedback has a detrimental effect on students' motivation level, particularly for them who have a mid to low level of writing proficiency in learning English as a foreign language. So there are several studies about written corrective feedback. The first study written by Mahmoud 2019 under the title Could Evolve Learners' Perception of Written Corrective Feedback and Its Types. So the study investigates students' perception of written corrective feedback, its classification, and whether the learners use written corrective feedback as a learning tool among 20 university-level English learners. However, the study has variable equation to determine students' perception of written corrective feedback during the blended learning process. Some differences arise between the previous studies and these present studies. This difference include the subject of the study, where the previous study carried out at the university level, where the present study will be carried out at junior high school level. Moreover, the present study are also explained more, not only related to EFL students' perception, but also EFL teacher perception about the implementation of written corrective feedback in blended learning. The second study is written by Chena Sasaji and Liu 2016 with the title EFL Learners' Perception and Preferences of Written Corrective Feedback, a case study of university student from mainland China. So the difference between the previous study and this present study is a geographic location. It means that the previous study conducted in mainland China, while this present study conducted in Indonesia, especially in South Sulawesi. And the third study, written by Saragi, Maja, and Siraga 2021 under the title Written Corrective Feedback Student Perception and Preferences. So, even though the studies align with each other conducted in Indonesia, the previous study and this present study, the gap still exists. The previous study just tried to focus on one side of perception, just student perception. However, this present study is more try to explore more about students and teacher perception and written corrective feedback. And also, the differences is arise in a circumstance, while the previous studies are conducted in a conventional learning process, while this present study tried to explore about the implementation of written corrective feedback during a blended learning process. So there are research questions based on this background. The first one, how do the default students perceive the implementation of written corrective feedback in blended learning? And the second, how do the default teacher apply the written corrective feedback to students in blended learning? And the third one, what kind of written corrective feedback do the default students prefer in blended learning? Based on the research questions, there are three objectives of the studies. The first one, to find out the full junior high school students' perception on the use of written corrective feedback in blended learning. The second, to explore the full junior high school teachers' perception on the use of written corrective feedback in blended learning. And the third one, to discover particular types of written corrective feedback preferred by the full junior high school students during blended learning. So, there are two significance of the study, theoretical significance and a practical significance. Theoretical significance means that the study might be used not only as a source of reference for relevant study on the implementations of written corrective feedback, but also it is expected that this can give contribution for teachers to acknowledge important points about how to apply different written corrective feedback based on the circumstance on the students. The second, practical significance. It means that this study is hoped to be useful as an input for teachers, students, school, and further researchers. So let's move on to the next chapter about chapter 2 about literature review. Literature review consists of pertinent ideas. So what is perception? Define is Robbins and Jack 2013, who defined perception as a process of humans collecting and interpreting their sensory experience to give meaning to their surroundings. Besides, Walgito 2010 also defined perception as a sensory process because it is a real process of receiving stimuli through sensory experience perceived by the sensing. Therefore, based on the explanation above, the writer concludes that perception is the process of receiving stimuli through the human senses accompanied by awareness in order for individual to recognize, to assess, and acknowledge something previously experienced. So types of perception. Based on Marami 2005, cited in Nafandi 2021, there are two types of perception as follows as the first external perception is the perception that occurs as a result of stimulation from the person surrounding or apart from themselves. So external means outside from individual self. And the second self-perception is a type of perception that describes how we judge ourselves, including our characteristic that distinguish us from our siblings, friends, and any others. The second pertinent ideas about the feedback. What is feedback defined is Richard and Smith 2013, who stated that feedback is a reviews or other information that students acquire regarding their achievement on learning assignments, whether from teachers or others. And the second, Beecher and Storch 2016, who defined feedback as a written reply to a linguistic blunder which has been made in the composition of the text by and the second language students. So, based on the definitions above, the writer concludes that the feedback is one of the methods teachers use in the teaching process to provide information to students about how well they performed with the learning outcomes or objective. In addition, when this term concerns to written corrective feedback, it means that the feedback is provided in the form of written comments or response given by teachers or even their friends and is usually presented on student written task or assignment. So, types of written corrective feedback. There are several articles identify 6 broad types of written corrective feedback. So, the first types of written corrective feedback is direct corrective feedback. Direct corrective feedback can be defined as a type of corrective feedback that the teachers provide through the structure or linguistic form of the target language. And the second, indirect corrective feedback. Indirect corrective feedback can be defined as a writer that an error is met, usually through a symbol or an acronym. So this usually provided by the teacher through a symbol or acronym. And the third one about metalinguistic corrective feedback. It means that this type of corrective feedback that the teacher presents and explicit comments about the essence of the error. There are two ways to provide this corrective feedback: brief grammatical description and the use of error codes. Next, about feedback focus or focused and unfocused corrective feedback. Focused corrective feedback should be defined as a type of corrective feedback that identifies only one type of corrective feedback or problematic error, such as using the articles in English. And Unfocused corrective feedback can be defined as a type of corrective feedback that identifies all the students' writing mistakes. So it's not only about one error of the students, but also all of students' error. And the next type of corrective feedback is electronic feedback. Why this is defined as electronic feedback? Because the teacher suggests mistake and give a link to the correlations file with example of proper usage. So this is usually provided by the teachers using a link to help to assist students to correct the errors made in the writing assignment through the link. And then last type of written corrective feedback is reformulation. It's a type of written corrective feedback which a teacher rewrites an entire text written by a student to make the language look as authentic as possible while retaining the original contents. So the next about definition of teaching. Teaching is the arrangement and management of circumstance in which there are space or impediments that the person will strive to solve and from which he will learn to accomplish that goal. It is definition from Brubacher 1939. Second, teaching is an interactive activity, mainly including classroom discourse that occurs between teacher and students and happens during certain predefined tasks. Jackson 1986 classified teaching phases into three categories. So there are three categories in teaching phases. The first one, pre-active phase. What is pre-active phase means? It is the stage of preparation for teaching that a teacher goes through before engaging in student-to-teacher interaction in the classroom. So it is before the teacher delivers the materials called pre-active phase. The second, interactive phase. This is a simple classroom instruction. At this point, the teacher employs a variety of tactics to accomplish the predetermined goals. And the last, post-active phase. Post-active phase, it means evaluation and feedback are the third and final stage of teaching instruction. So post-active phase content about the feedback and the quizzes maybe. And this phase begins after the teacher has completed the class and taken a step back to assess the entire process. Next, about blended learning. Melbourne 2012 defined blended learning as the combination of teaching and learning methods from both face-to-face mobile learning through the use of application. Muhammad 2015 described blended learning as a learning method in which students have face-to-face class meetings and some class sessions that are replaced with online instruction through using particular application. And Darmawan 2004 in the page of 21 assumed that blended learning combines several learning models to increase the quality of remote learning service through the technology. From that, the writer concludes that blended learning is the process of integrating between face-to-face, combination between face-to-face, conventional, and mobile learning or online learning. There are several forms of blended learning. According to Santosh 2013, the reason behind the selection of the blended model is to identify the use of learning model from 6 forms of blended learning. Those formed can be explained as follows. The first, rotation. So what is rotation? Rotations, in the context of learning, rotation model can be described when students take a given course and have their schedule to follow the subject online, face-to-face, or conventionally. Second, face-to-face driver. Face-to-face driver is a kind of blended learning model in which most of the curriculum is delivered through lecturers. And the third, the online lab. The online lab is a blended learning model that uses an online tool to convey the full subjects, although in a physical lab setting. And the fourth forms of blended learning is a flex. What is flex? The flex blended learning model includes an online system that promotes most of the curriculum. In this model, in which the majority of the learning is conducted through the combination of online and face-to-face model to provide continuous support as a needed basis through extra in-person lesson and smaller group session. Next, self-blended. Self-blend. So self-blend model is a completely customizable strategy that enables students to select more than one online class to support their conventional school curriculum. Although the majority of classroom instruction is conducted online, the student may still participate in face-to-face courses. And the last one about online driver. The online driver uses both an online site and a lecturer to deliver the curriculum. Most students work from home and only come to school for additional or require face-to-face courses. So it is online driver is the most common use in the blended learning process. Next about the conceptual framework. So based on this conceptual framework, that it can be concluded that blended learning is one of the learning method in that the process integrated into face-to-face learning with computer blended learning or online learning. And here, teacher as a facilitator to assist the students in achieving the objective of the study. And of course, as I mentioned before, there are three teaching phases: the pre-active phase, interactive phase, and post-active phase. And feedback is provided in a post-active phase as an assessment phase, as an evaluation phase. And this study want to try to explore about both teachers' perception of written corrective feedback and student perception of written corrective feedback. And also, the study tries to explore about what kind of written corrective feedback do the FL learners prefer. That consists of seven written corrective feedback, direct corrective feedback, indirect corrective feedback, metalinguistic corrective feedback, focus and non-focus corrective feedback, electronic corrective feedback, and reformulation corrective feedback. So let's move on to the next chapter about research method. The first one about research design. So the study used a descriptive qualitative method. So this study, because through analyzing information, gathering, grouping, investigating, interpreting data from the respondent, the method can indeed determine the perceptions of EFL students and teachers. The primary goal of the descriptive qualitative method used in the study is to focus on how the researcher can encourage a deep understanding of certain phenomena, for instance, the surroundings, process, or even perception. And next about research site. Research site consists of research times. This study will be conducted 3 weeks or a month, especially start from October till November 2022. And the location, it will be conducted at junior high school level, particularly in SMP Negeri 3 Galesong Selatan. Next, about research subjects. So, the subject of this study is the ninth grade or semester of EFL students, especially class 9A, with the total number of students is 27, consisting of 10 male students and 17 female students. Next, about research variables. This quality study has only one variable, namely a single independent variable. So a single variable, it means that the study just focus on only one or a single characteristic or attribute of the variables. And operational definition about perceptions, written quantitative feedback, and blended learning. So perception is the process, as I mentioned before, that perceptions is the process of receiving stimuli through the senses, accompanied by the awareness to assess or acknowledge something previously experienced. And written quality feedback is one method of feedback used by the teachers to assist students in identifying their errors in written forms. Blended learning is the combination between conventional learning, face-to-face, and online learning to assist the learning process in this era. So, next about research instruments. So there are two research instruments in this research proposal. The first about interview. In this study, same research interview will be used from among the three kinds of interviews, namely structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. It will be carried out orally through individual face-to-face meetings with 3 to 5 9th grade students. The next questionnaire, to collect data from 98 class of SMP Negeri 3 Garisong Selatan, an open-ended questionnaire is required to be used. Why I select open-ended questionnaire in this study? Because open-ended questionnaire provide give us respondents to share their opinions about the statement or about the questions given. Procedure of collecting data. The first from the questionnaire, after the research informs the students about all of the research objective, the questionnaire will be distributed in the classroom and students will complete several questions given. So the researcher will directly distribute the questionnaire made before, and after that the students will complete all the questions given. The next about interview, it consists of two main parts, namely part one about students and teacher perception on written quality feedback during blended learning, and a part two about student preferences of written quality feedback. There are 10 questions for students and 10 questions for teachers. Moreover, to support this step, the researcher used some tools. Firstly, a mobile phone to record questions and answer between the interviewer and the respondent. Secondly, some papers and pens are needed to write several main points during the interview session. Technique of data analysis. So how to analyze this data? First, from the questionnaire, the findings from the open-ended questionnaire given to the student will be analyzed through qualitative thematic analysis. Caulfield 2022 argued that thematic analysis is an excellent method to discover important things related to people's point of view, knowledge, ideas, and experience from a collection of qualitative data, for instance, interview, transcript, online profiles, and feedback forms. The second, beside from the questionnaire, second interview, how to analyze the interview. So there are to analyze the data collected from the interview instrument. The researcher decided to use the theory from Miles, Huberman, and Saldana 2014, who suggest that the process of analyzing the data consists of three stages. The first stage is data reduction. In this stage, the researcher will summarize, select the main issue or problems, and then all of the data will be simplified through the eliminating irrelevant items. The second, data display. The next step is to display the data after it has been reduced. The researcher will present data on the basis of narrative text through streamlining the data. And the last, verification or conclusion. The last step is data analysis is to make inferences and verify them. The researcher will make conclusion and main points from all of the collected data to make it abundantly clear. So I think that's all from my presentation in this prestigious occasion. And I'm closing my presentation by saying wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.